Unraveling the Enigma of JonBenet Ramsey's murder, facts, theories, and suspects. This is the details of how a 6-year-old girl was killed in the basement of her family house. This gave off suspicions and worries, making the police doubt the word of her friends and families. In this video, we will be looking at the death of JonBenet Ramsey. But before we start, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to this channel. JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was an American child beauty queen who was murdered at the age of 6 in the home where she and her family lived in Boulder, Colorado. She was born on August 6, 1990. A lengthy ransom note was discovered inside the house. About 7 hours after the kid went missing, her father, John, discovered her body in the basement. She'd been hit in the head, causing her skull to fracture, and then strangled to death. A garrote was discovered around her neck. According to the post-mortem report, asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma was the official cause of death for JonBenet. The coroner judged her death a homicide. JonBenet Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia, to Patricia Patsy Ramsey and JonBenet Ramsey. There was an elder sibling in the family named Burke. JonBenet's first name is a portmanteau of her father's first and middle names, while her mother's first name serves as her middle name. She was attending High Peaks Elementary School in Boulder, Colorado for kindergarten. On December 26, 1996, JonBenet's body was discovered in the home she shared with her family in Boulder. On December 31st, her body was laid to rest in the St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. JonBenet was buried close to her sister, Elizabeth Pash Ramsey, who died in a car crash when she was 22. JonBenet Ramsey's mother, Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen, entered her into various child beauty pageants, piquing the curiosity of the public and media worldwide. The Boulder Police Department is continuing to look into the crime even though it is now years old and deemed a cold case. John Andrew Ramsey is demanding an official apology from the authorities for their role in his half-sister's mysterious death. On Father's Day, he tweeted about his relationship with the Boulder, USA police, writing, "The police owe him a long and heartfelt apology after all this time, but it's going to take work and courage." On December 26, 1996, JonBenet Ramsey was murdered in her Colorado home. Even now, 26 years after the crime, many questions remain unanswered about what led to the catastrophe. The father was the prime suspect for quite some time. The parents were indicted for child abuse leading to death and conspiracy in 1998. However, the prosecutor at the time decided not to press charges against the couple because of a lack of ties to JonBenet's family in 2008. Prosecutor Mary Lacey said she was wrong to accuse them and Burke, who was 9 at the time of the murder. 20 years after JonBenet's murder, it still fascinates Americans. JonBenet Ramsey was discovered dead in her house. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, who died in 2006 at age 49 from ovarian cancer, contacted 911 that day to report her daughter missing and to inform dispatchers that a ransom note had been found demanding $118,000, the amount of a bounty the girl's father had recently earned. The note threatened to have the youngster beheaded if the money was not paid. But a short time later, the young victim was discovered in the basement of the family house in Boulder, Colorado. Her hands were tied behind her back, and her mouth was covered with duct tape. Facts and suspects. There are two competing hypotheses on JonBenet's demise. One is the one of the family hypothesis. At first, investigators in Boulder focused almost solely on John and Patsy Ramsey, the suspect's parents. Greg McCrary, an ex-FBI profiler, claims that statistically, it is a 12-to-1 probability that it's a family member or a caregiver when it comes to child murder. There was no sign of a break-in when police arrived, but they did find evidence of a staged crime, including a ransom note. When they tried to get the Ramseys' cooperation in investigating their daughter's death, they were met with hostility. According to the Daily Camera, the Ramseys explained their reluctance by saying they feared a thorough investigation for intruders would not be conducted, and that they themselves would be hurriedly identified as the major suspects in the case. One possible explanation is that Patsy, angry at JonBenet for wetting the bed, hit daughter and then strangled her to hide the crime, thinking she was already dead. But Patsy had no record of irrational outbursts in the past. After the fact, Burke Ramsey, older brother of JonBenet, said, "We didn't get spanked, nothing of the sort, nothing close, nothing near laying a finger on us, let alone killing your child." Theoretically, the strangulation could have been a red herring to divert attention from other aspects of the attack and murder. Burke, who was 9 years old when JonBenet died, was interviewed multiple times by police. The first 2 interviews with him yielded no cause for alarm. A child psychologist found evidence of healthy, caring family relationships between the Ramseys. Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner told a reporter in 1998 that Burke Ramsey was innocent of his sister's murder. The Boulder County District Attorney's Office reaffirmed Burke Ramsey's exoneration in May of 1999. No one ever suspected him of anything. The Ramseys placed an ad in the newspaper on April 27, 1997, offering a $100,000 prize for information leading to the Ramseys' whereabouts. Over 4 months after their daughter's body was discovered, they finally agreed to sit down for individual formal interviews at the Boulder County Justice Center 3 days later. In 1999, a grand jury in Colorado reached a decision to indict the parents. The indictment stated that the parents did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and felony cause the death of JonBenet Ramsey, a child under the age of 16, by causing the child to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat to the child's life or health. DNA expert Barry Scheck and forensics expert Henry Lee both testified in the case. On October 13, 1999, District Attorney Alex Hunter declined to sign the indictment, citing a lack of evidence as the reason. The public saw the results of the grand jury investigation as lacking clarity. Court record unsealed on October 25, 2013, revealing the grand jury's decision to indict. Another suspect was a man named Mark Carr. The family believed they had identified the child's murderer in 2006. American instructor John Mark Carr was detained in Thailand after confessing to the murder of JonBenet. The 41-year-old man fit the ideal profile. He was married to kids in other countries. He had a criminal record that included a conviction for possessing child pornography, and he suffered from severe mental illness. John Mark Carr said he was in love with the young victim, who he then raped and accidentally killed with a combination of drugs. John Mark Carr, however, gave conflicting and partial accounts. His ex-wife, Laura Carr, even gave him an alibi, saying that he spent the Christmas holidays of 1996 in Alabama with her and their 3 kids. DNA testing verified their suspicions, and Carr was set free. Prisoner Gary Oliva, who is serving time for child pornography, wrote a letter to an old high school friend in which he admitted to killing a 6-year-old girl in 2019. According to him, it was a case of accidental murder. "I have never loved someone as much as I loved JonBenet, and yet I held her and dropped her, causing her skull to shatter in 2 while I stood there and watched her die. I assure you it was purely accidental. She was different from the other kids," he wrote. He explained that JonBenet changed me completely and made my evil side disappear in another letter. "Seeing her stunning features and glowing complexion made me realize I had made a terrible mistake by murdering the other children. But it was my fault that she died in a tragic accident. However, the DNA evidence cleared this man." Other facts. In this case, some windows and a door were found to be unlocked that night. In addition, the last time John Ramsey was locked out of the house, he shattered a basement window to get back in. Retired homicide detective Lou Smith was called in to look at the situation. He quickly came to support the idea that an intruder had committed the murder and that the invader had entered the house through a basement window. There was a suitcase on the floor close to this window. According to Smith, the assailant or attackers had planned to use the luggage to either carry JonBenet out of the house alive as a kidnap victim or to transport her body outside the house. In January 1997, the Ramseys' attorneys hired former FBI profiler John E. Douglas to evaluate the case and determine whether or not the Ramseys were involved. Douglas said that if a family member were responsible for a murder, they would likely interpret events so that someone else recovered the body. In this scenario, John and his friend were the ones to discover the body in the basement. Douglas suggests that parents who murder their children will often hide their child's body except for the head out of an abundance of caution. This wasn't the kind of thing a parent would do because only the torso was covered. Furthermore, according to the tenets of staging the body, John undid the duct tape from her mouth and untied the cord around her. Arndt made a mistake by putting JonBenet in the family room. Subscribe to this channel for more crime videos.